Portal. Current events. Portal. Talk language. Watch view source. Worldwide current events. Sports events. Recent deaths. Entry views by week list. Today's most viewed articles. Topics in the news. Jalen Brunson in basketball. The New York Knicks defeat the San Antonio Spurs to win the NBA Finals. MVP Jalen Brunson pictured. Elon Musk becomes the world's first US dollar trillionaire after his company SpaceX raises the largest initial public offering. English artist David Hockney dies at the age of 88. In athletics, Jakob Fart sets a new world record in men's 110 meters hurdles. Ongoing. Bolivian protests. Ebola epidemic. FIFA World Cup. Iran war. Lebanon war. Russo-Ukrainian war timeline. Sudanese civil war timeline. Recent deaths. Kieran O'Cute. Leonard Cyril Carabas. Badger. Iab Gordon S. Wood. Jean Shalit. Bob Packwood. Nominated article June 15th, 2026. Monday. Edit the story. Watch 2026 Iran war. 2025 to 2026 Iran United States negotiations. 2026 Iran war ceasefire. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister for Legal and International Affairs Kazem Garibabadi confirms in the early hours of Monday that a deal has been reached to end the war and that the U.S. blockade will end beginning tonight. Times of Israel. June 14th, 2026. Sunday. Edit the story. Watch armed conflicts and attacks. Middle Eastern crisis. 2026 Iran war. 2025 to 2026 Iran United States negotiations. 2026 Iran war ceasefire. Pakistan in the 2026 Iran war. Islamabad memorandum. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and United States President Donald Trump announced that Iran and the U.S. have reached an agreement to end the war, extend the ceasefire by 60 more days, and reopen the Strait of Hormuz, with the deal set to be officially signed in Switzerland on Friday. Reuters. Axios mediators from Qatar travel to Tehran, Iran, to finalize the ceasefire agreement between Iran and the U.S. to end the war. ABC News, The Jerusalem Post. 2026 Strait of Hormuz crisis. 2026 Strait of Hormuz campaign. 2026 United States naval blockade of Iran. U.S. President Trump authorizes the end of the blockade imposed since April 13th after announcing that an agreement had been reached. AP. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says that the U.S. has maintained control of the Strait of Hormuz and states that the U.S. has guided 125 million barrels of oil through Operation Project Freedom despite regional tensions. AA. Gaza war attacks on Jabalia refugee camp. At least 6 people are killed in Gaza, including 4 in an Israeli airstrike on the Jabalia refugee camp targeting Hamas members, and 2 in separate shooting incidents near Khan Yunis. AFP. The Manila Times. Hezbollah-Israel conflict. 2026 Lebanon war. Lebanon's health ministry reports that an Israeli attack on the Dahi suburb of Beirut killed 3 people and injured 16. Al Jazeera. The Israeli military confirms that Hezbollah commander Ali Musa Dakduk, who was responsible for orchestrating the killing of 5 American troops in Iraq during the Iraq War, has been killed in a recent airstrike in southern Lebanon. Al Jazeera. Sudanese civil war Kordofan campaign. Rapid support forces (RSF) launched drone strikes on El Obeid, North Kordofan, targeting a fuel station at the El Obeid airport district and a fuel storage tank. Sudan Tribune. The Sudanese army says that they have killed dozens of RSF fighters and destroyed over 141 combat vehicles across Sudan this month, including the Darfur and Kordofan regions and Blue Nile and White Nile states. AA. Russia United Kingdom relations. British Royal Marine storm and sees a Russian shadow fleet tanker in the English Channel. BBC News. Business and economy. Economic impact of the 2026 Iran war. Oil prices, including crude oil, fall by 5% after U.S. President Donald Trump announced that a deal has been reached to end the war, reopen the Strait of Hormuz and end the U.S. blockade. CNBC. Disasters and accidents. 2026 Butler Pack T-750 crash. 12 people are killed when a plane carrying skydivers crashes in Butler, Missouri, United States. WDAF-TV. The Guardian. 2026 Rio de Janeiro midair collision. American singer Oliver Tree, Argentine YouTuber Gatsby, Argentine filmmaker Lucas A. Vignale, and 3 others are killed when 2 helicopters collide and crash into a parking lot in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The Times of India. CNN Brazil. 6 people are killed after a pickup truck collides with a parked truck and engine banner. Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, China. Xinhua. Law and crime. 2026 NBA Finals. Police arrest 63 people outside Madison Square Garden in New York City, U.S. after 10 police officers were injured during celebrations of the New York Knicks winning the NBA Finals. The Athletic. Via the New York Times. Gunshots are reported overnight on 42nd Street and Broadway in New York City, with 1 teen shot and several buses being damaged during celebrations. BBC News. Politics and elections. 2026 Swiss referendum. Swiss voters reject an initiative to cap Switzerland's permanent resident population at 10 million by 2050. AP. Reuters. Sports. 2026 24 Hours of Le Mans endurance racing. Toyota Racing wins the 24 Hours of Le Mans with drivers Mike Conway, Kamui Kobayashi, and Nick DeVries. It is Toyota's first victory in the event since 2022. AFP. Via the Manila Times. Motorsport.com. 2026 Stanley Cup final. The Carolina Hurricanes defeat the Vegas Golden Knights in a 3-0 shutout victory to win the Stanley Cup in 6 games. Their first championship since 2006. WBTV. ESPN. UFC Freedom 250. The UFC Freedom 250 event, named after the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Declaration of Independence, is held on the South Lawn of the White House in Washington, D.C. The event coincides with the 80th birthday of U.S. President Donald Trump. CBS News. News.com.